certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Everyone.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is certified.
Welcome back, Real Talk family. As always, we got the usual suspects, myself, X, Gales, Banks, Terrell, we're all here, ready to go. This week we got a dope conversation. I believe it's going to be a dope conversation. We got a real dope topic. Today we're going to be doing whitewashed film and whitewashed, in general in Hollywood. So let's just dive straight into it, get this sparked off. Before we, get into the conversation, I did want to go ahead and put a definition to whitewashed films. It's real simple. I like to do it in an example. So if we, like say that movie, The Great Wall, with Matt Damon, or some of like Banks' favorite, Gods of Egypt, where you're in Egypt, movie in Egypt about gods, and only one of the god, if not none of the gods, are African descent, black, or whatever the case may be. That's whitewashed. Blackface is whitewashed. An example of whitewashed films. It's been happening since film started. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it. I wanted to start it off with a question, as always. So what do y'all think about whitewashed films in general? Do you think at some point it was needed? Is not needed? They need to get away with it? What's your thoughts on whitewashed films?
I don't feel like it was ever needed. I mean, obviously, back in the day, at the earliest steps of film, they didn't want to cast us in their pictures. I mean, they wanted to keep us out of everything else, like they kept us out of all the other shit. So I don't feel like it was ever necessary. But now it's to the point where I'm not even understanding how it's still happening. Well, I'm understanding, but it's like, why is this still happening? Because we have multiple people of color that are capable of fulfilling all these roles that they try to fill. So
what's your thoughts, Skills?
I thought it was inevitable. You look at everything from historically being written from, the white male point of view. And, and now we take things from literature, from the past. We look at comic books. Comic books is one of the biggest areas that we draw from today. One of the biggest medias that we draw from today. Like the first comic book wasn't really getting popping until like the 30s, 33. And then the first Black Panther didn't drop to like 66. So it's like 30 years, like a 33-year gap where they're just going to draw from, and they got a head start as far as the literature that they draw from. So now that we fast forward to nowadays, it's Hollywood was started from that point of view. So it's going to be hard to just turn it and reverse it. So it's inevitable. It was inevitable. So.
What about you, Terrell? What's your thoughts?
I mean, there's a history of white supremacists going around the planet and whitewashing artifacts in general. So it's honestly not a surprise that they carried that over into filmmaking. So, and then, just to piggyback off of what Gills was saying, they're gonna do that from, telling it from the white male's point of view. And they feel that it's more profitable that way and it's more desirable. So,
yeah, I'm with Terrell on that one. I think they whitewashed everything else. They're obviously going to whitewash media, films, movies, stuff like that. There are some, doing research, Google, whatever the case may be. There are some movies that I'm kind of surprised, but at the same time, not surprised that there's some whitewashed characters. But before we get into that, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper and go into like, what was the idea behind it? Like now the big thing is like draw, right? So instead of casting an unknown Black character, unknown Asian character, well, we're gonna cast a white woman or a white man in that role just because they have a bigger name to bring to the film, right? What are y'all thoughts on that? You think that's like a cover up, or is there some truth to it? Terrell, what you thinking on that?
Yeah, like based on my research, producers argue that, you know, a film will cast actors that are predominantly white because they feel like it's necessary for their film to do financially well. Because, you know, they're seen as more profitable or more desirable, which is bullshit because we all know there's been all white casted films that were trash and that bombed box office. And honestly, the more diversified films make, you know, you've seen those be more successful, especially now. So
What about you, Gills? What's your thoughts on the idea about they using, you know, white actors and actresses as the draw, as if black actresses, Asian, etc., couldn't pull that same draw?
I mean, they're gonna cater to their demographic, and so, like, if you take a movie that got popping in Asia, or popping overseas, and it was culture based, or you know, it had a whole cast of people from that demographic, you know, when you bring it to America, you're literally gonna whitewash it, you know what I mean, make it look palatable. So the people that the general public that you're catering to, that you want their dollars, you want them to see themselves on the screen, you want them to be excited. And that's the thought process that I imagine that went into it, whether it was right or wrong, which clearly wrong. But yeah, that's something that's going to happen. I mean, that happened in the past. Now people are bringing light to it more, but I see exactly what's just about dollars. It's about money.
So what's some films that y'all would like to point out that showcase that, like
Lone Ranger, Johnny Depp casted as I can't remember the I don't want to butcher his name and get it wrong, but he was cast as a Native American
he started with
character.
A T.
Tonto.
Yeah,
Tonto.
Yeah.
He was casted as Tonto. Now Tonto is the Lone Ranger is as old as whatever. It's a pretty old idea or show or whatever, and they casted Johnny Depp in that. And then you can flip that over to things such as you said earlier, Gods of Egypt, Prince of Persia, when Jake Gyllenhaal was cast as a Prince of Persia. I don't know if anybody's familiar on what a lot of people in that area look like, but they definitely don't look like Jake Gyllenhaal, and they tried to give him like a little tan and everything else. It still didn't work. And then they used English throughout the entire movie. There was no dialect of any other language used. It was all English. So
they also have like Ghost of Shell. That was a big one. I
Ghost,
even remember when that film dropped.
Ghost in a Shell.
Yeah, Ghost in a Shell. Sorry, I remember when that film dropped, there was a lot of noise about why did they cast a white woman, and I feel like they tried to use that example by trying to cast probably the biggest name they could at the time of popularity and stuff like that, to try to, you know, shade it or whatever the case may be. But that's definitely one that they do. And there's even some that I've seen that we've watched and probably don't even pay attention to. I know Doctor Strange was one. I forget the character's name, but she's the one that kind of put Doctor Strange on, took him on and tried to like start training him up. The ball head.
The ancient one.
Yeah, the ancient one. Yeah. They said in the comments that
he's actually not even a woman in the comics. It's a man in the comics. I mean, there's no switch up. So, but the only thing I can say as a nod to that, because I did run into that, is that in the comics they never really give like the backstory and their, I guess like you can say like their whole wizard thing. They do take wizards from all over the world. Like they get people from everybody. And that was really one of the ones that I think everybody was willing to let go because of that diversity. But I definitely get what you're saying though.
And I think that's something that we should talk on real quick is the idea of adaptations, right? So they go from, because in a way, like you said, in a way that's kind of good, right? They gave that character to a white woman, to a woman, white woman, whatever the case may be, but a woman in that position of power, which is, you know, something that we're now freshly diving into and getting into. So there are some positives into that, but I do want to discuss that adaptations, like films that were books or plays or whatever the case may be, and then when switched over, like comic book films that switched over. They kind of do that. They play with the characters. And do you think that's just them casting the best? Like in her position, was that maybe she was the best actress that showed up, or did they look to do that, or that's just how it happened? Like, how do y'all think that aspect of it goes?
Well, shout out to Tilda Swinton because I think she's phenomenal. But
yeah, I think she's a dope actress. Yeah,
but it's not always the case. You're not gonna have a big name as big as Tilda Swinton or somebody as talented as Tilda Swinton. Sometimes they're just doing it just to do it. Like I remember reading the book 21. I don't know if everybody
that's on the list too.
About the MIT team that went into casinos and did blackjacks. Kind of did the blackjack thing, counting cards, right? But the whole team was really like pretty much predominantly Asian American or of Asian descent. And so in the movie, they got Jim Sturgis, Kate Bosworth. Even if you've never heard of these people, Kevin Spacey, if you've never heard of these people, even the names themselves sound super white. But like it is what it is. Like, and Jim Sturgis is not the biggest name in the world. And shout out to him. But I mean, I just call it a spade. It's not like, and Kate Bosworth, yeah, she acts a little bit, but I mean, come on. So I mean, could you have used like the whole Asian cast, like as far as to do it? Yeah, but I guess they thought they might have not seen their dollars. Maybe they might not get a name as Kevin Spacey, even though he's not the lead actor in the film. Maybe you might not get him. So I don't know. I sometimes they just do it just because they feel like this is the way it goes, and this is what's gonna make them the most money. But if you do it, if you treat it right culturally, you can probably make more money off of that. People want to go see it.
I think they, in some cases, they do in a way have a point, right? Like I could see and understand kind of where they're going, but I do think that it's played on that point so much that it's like, all right, we're in a new time. Like you need to start giving this opportunities. If you give Asian actors opportunities, Black actors opportunities, and so forth, then you don't know what can come of that, right? You don't know if you just casted the next, Will Smith or Denzel Washington or Jack Nicholson, whatever the case may go, but not by not giving these opportunities, it's like you're never gonna know. Like we're never gonna have that opportunity to even showcase that talent or whatever the case may be. And it's also films that I kind of didn't pay attention to, like the story or the backstory. But one film that I actually enjoyed was 30 Days of Night. With Josh Hartnett. Yeah, and they said that his character wasn't wasn't white. It was, portrayed as an individual from that area, which wasn't white. So just movies like that stick out, that were like books or stories or whatever the case may be, is kind of interesting. And in some ways I kind of can't see it, because if you have a story that nobody heard of, and you can't find an actor from that descent or from that area that's good, or that may be good enough or have that name to get where it's at, then, or maybe you, as a writer, you had this story and you wrote the character as Black or whatever, but when you sold it, trying to sell it to Warner Brothers or whatever, they're like, yo, we're gonna change this. We gotta change this, or we're not gonna buy your script. Like, what do you do in that situation? So what are y'all thoughts?
A good example would be like Argo. Like Argo with Ben Affleck. So he's not only in the movie, he's directing this shit. Right. And so like he's like, all right, I'm gonna put myself, and I'm a huge Ben Affleck fan, but he's like, all right, I'm gonna put myself in the lead character role. And then the dude is of Hispanic descent. This is Tony Mendez he's playing. Yeah. But the movie ended up winning an Oscar, and he had, it made decent money. But yeah, could you have gotten a Hispanic actor and just stuck behind the camera to do that? Absolutely.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in the casting room when they're doing auditions and stuff. Like, when do they even make that decision where it's like, oh, this Black character, oh, we're gonna cast a white person instead? Do they make the decision in there, or do they do it at the table when during when everything's being planned out? Like, when do they do that?
I have an idea.
We've seen one of those stories leak out with Harriet. Everybody heard about it?
Yeah.
It was Gregory Allen Howard pitched a movie by Harriet Tubman in '94 before it came out, and he said, "Yo, who do we get to play it?" And somebody in the boardroom said Julia Roberts, knowing damn well Julia Roberts cannot play Harriet Tubman whatsoever. Well, and then when they called him out on it, he doubled down. So that's a long story.
It's crazy. He meant that shit.
Yeah, he meant that shit. But it's crazy that that's acceptable. Like he he said that people was like, nah, you're wilding. He doubled down. No, we're not doing this. It's over. And he still continued to work and do whatever it is that he was doing on the next project and the next project and so forth.
He would have to be gone.
But I feel like people forget or don't pay attention or don't realize or whatever how much film one resonates with people, but two copies and mimics, our everyday life, right? Like, so these things, what was acceptable and made in films was actually what was acceptable in society, and we just smacked some art on it and threw it on a screen. And I think it's interesting, like we talking about Julia Roberts, because I wonder if she actually would have took on the part, right? Like if everybody in the room was like, sure, let's try it, let's see what we can do. It's the early 90s. You know what I'm saying?
And she was popping. She was popping in the 90s.
And she was that one. So I wonder, personally, if she would have been like, sure, let's try it. And how it would have been taken. You know what I'm saying? So
I feel that way every time we see one of those films, and it's like damn, what the fuck? Like did it not crush your mind? Like as the actor accepting that role, like the Johnny Depp, Jake Gyllenhaal, Gerard Butler, and Buddy from Game of Thrones, in fucking Gods of Egypt. Like this didn't cross your mind one time. Chadwick Boseman being in Gods of Egypt. Like Chad, you ain't sit back one time and was like,
it's different for Chadwick.
Rest in peace.
It's different for Chadwick. It's different for Chadwick. From an art standpoint. No, for me, it's different for Chadwick because he's on the come up, right? Like I'm just trying to get in. And he's a god too. Like he's not. It's not like he was
at that time. Yeah. He still was.
But one thing about Gods of Egypt that I did see is, which kind of it made me mad, but didn't make me mad. The crowds was very diverse. Like when they showed the crowds in the film of them talking to the people or whatever, it was very diverse.
Why are the crowds diverse in Egypt though?
I agree. I 100% agree. I was just happy that it was diverse. Like it's a movie. It's not real.
That made it worse for me.
Just happy. But to go back to Terrell's question about casting, I think that it's like a unwritten rule in a way, right? So we're sitting here casting, right? And we put our cast out there, what we're looking for. Because I mean, I'm sure everybody know, but Terrell, you definitely know, like when you got a cast for a character, you want a black woman, white woman, Asian woman, age, whatever. You put all of that stuff in the casting when you push it out, right? And I think they do that, and they looking for. So sometimes they may say it doesn't matter; it could be anything. But I think what they do is they look at who they have in the audition, and with a mind already of who they're going to cast or what type of person they're going to cast, right? And then they just hope that the person type that they want to cast is the best on that day, right? And I think that's just what they do, like, and they just go forth saying, "Nah, I think this actor was better." You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Banks was better than Gills, even though Gills could have blown everybody away, but they're just gonna say, "Nah, he has potential," but I think for what we need, I think Banks was the better actor. And I think that's kind of like what they do now for sure. I think more so now rather than back then. I think they just blatantly didn't do it. Just like, and I feel like this makes me think of George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, because that movie was, everybody in the movie was white except for the main actor, and it's hard to believe that black man was the only black person that came up to audition for any role in that film, right? And then none of those other black actors that did audition was good enough to be a zombie, to just walk around and moan. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I think. That's what I think really, really happened.
What year did that come out?
68.
Do you feel that the formula that you came up with, like, all right, we just hope this is we want him, but we gonna have this big act. Do you feel like that trend that is a result of every other thing in America as well?
Yeah, so think about it.
I feel like it's sports. I feel like it's
the military. It's everything.
Yes.
Just like in the military, they would say, the people were saying, like, if you promote 5 white dudes, you gotta promote 5 black dudes, 5 Asian dudes, 5 women. Like it's
that's an accurate statement. Like that's the type of shit they say.
It had good intentions, because you do have people, definitely in the Army, the way promotions is set up, that they could just say, like, you could be in a unit and be like, yo, you're not getting promoted in this unit. you stuck here 4 years and you're not going to get promoted because nobody wants to promote you. Nobody wants to take you to the board, whatever this case may be. So I think, like I said, I think film is literally just a mimic of what we see in society. And I think they did the same thing. And I feel like this is just the surface of it. Like, I feel like we're just scratching the surface because I think it goes so much deeper than that because like Gil's brought up Argo. Like, we're telling a story about, you know, a Hispanic man, right? And if you sit down and watch the film, you might not know that it's an Hispanic man because we see a white man on camera. You know what I'm saying? And that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper into the story. Like, he did this, he did that. Oh, that was white man. This is what white people do. This is what we've done. And I think that, so I think it's just so deep into casting, into whitewashing films. I think that's the whole point of it, not seeing, because I had this conversation with my peoples about how important media is because it backs up the trash that, you know, white people, you know, not to generalize, say in their homes, right? So in the 50s they were saying, you know, black people are monkeys, black people are gorillas, right? That's what they're literally saying. Like, they're not clean, they're dirty, blah 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 in the house. And then the kids are going to school, hearing it from their teachers, right? Then they go to the movie theaters, and now we're seeing Ngagi, a movie about how you know, black tribes was mating with gorillas and creating a gorilla ape man person. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they enforce their bad ideas. And I think it's just still just trickling down into today in 2021.
I feel like there was this like ridiculous ass picture. I don't know if y'all ever seen it. Y'all been on Facebook for a while. Like, this picture on Facebook. It was like, in 50 years, when they think he's faded from memory, this is who the world is gonna tell you Tupac is. It was like this ridiculous ass, skinny ass white dude. He had all Tupac's with the rag, the goatee, all that. And I laughed. And this is like 5 years ago. I was like, yo, this shit could happen. Like, this is definitely something that can happen. Like, there's an argument going around right now, in which I was trying to find like a hard source on it for the show, but I couldn't find it. It's like people like, there's like been several people like Shakespeare was black.
Mm-hmm. I heard that too.
There's like paintings that Shakespeare. There's like painting of Shakespeare, and he's a black man. There's a few theories, but I couldn't find nothing hard.
The one I saw was he was just melanated, like he had melanin, like he wasn't like dark skinned, but he wasn't pale white, like how they paint him.
There was like documents like talking about him, like describing him. I was like, that's a black man, but I couldn't stamp whether none of that shit was facts or not.
So I couldn't wait to bring this up for Gills.
Oh,
but
God.
Tom Cruise be doing that. Like, he be doing that in his movies, yo. So your favorite film, Edge of Tomorrow, you know, he's playing, you know, a Japanese protagonist or whatever the case may be. He out there doing his Thug Dizzle. Like, what's going on? Yep. That's your man's, ain't it?
Explain, Gills. Explain.
I seen that one yesterday. I was like, oh, I didn't think he was gonna bring it up though.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
See, I don't understand. It's cool when Matt Damon do it.
It's not cool when Matt Damon do it, bro.
It's not cool when none of them do it.
It's not
we
cool.
Just saying.
It's not cool.
Single out my man Tom. So
we're gonna single out Tom Cruise. As much as I can single out Tom Cruise.
I see that.
We're gonna single out.
Between The Last Samurai and Edge of Tomorrow, I don't have any explanation. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But the whole thing I was saying.
But The Last Samurai, didn't he come over there? Didn't he played a white man in The Last Samurai? He played a white man.
I think what they're saying.
Some bail. Thank you, Banks.
No. I think what they're saying. I think what they're saying with the whitewash thing, because I was reading, they said the same thing with the Great Wall, is that they whitewashed it in a point as China, you know, China, for example, is so advanced that they built this gigantic wall to protect them from whatever, right? But they needed a white man to bring over gunpowder to kill the monsters that they've been fighting centuries for already. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were preparing for. Yeah, yes. And I think that's why. And I think that's why people was like, yo, this is whitewash. Because the movie would be good if
white savior
if it was
the term you're looking for.
yeah. But what I'm saying is it's still whitewashed in the fact that it's, you know, it's being projected in this white image that white people would come and save the day or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
But the movie would still be a good movie if the character was of Chinese descent, and that's how it happened. So I think that's where they're going with saying that is whitewash.
Question. So I know we touched on it a little bit, talking about movies like 21, where it should have been of Asian descent, or
Mortal Kombat.
It's a bunch of movies, right?
Dragon Ball. That
Dragon Ball.
terrible ass movie.
After that question, we gotta talk about that.
Would you consider, and I don't want to talk about that, would you consider the Asian community the most, and not that it's competition, but are they the most whitewashed community in Hollywood, would you say?
No.
I
think it's honestly, if you look down the list of films that are like have been whitewashed, that shit damn near is like, I would say it's more even than you thought. And I'm talking about amongst Asians, Africans, Hispanics. Like it's really bad. Like they don't discriminate. They don't discriminate when it comes to whitewashing.
Yeah, it's just non-white.
That's
non-white. That's all they care about.
Whatever's non-white, they gonna take it. Like they don't give a damn.
They literally made films, biopics of black, entertainers, and literally put a white man in blackface and did the biopic. They literally, what's his name? The Western, the dude that do all the Western movies, back in the day.
John Wayne.
They literally did that with, they do that. They take Native Americans, put a white man as the leader of Native Americans, and then his whole tribe is actually Native Americans, but the leader. Like they literally was doing it. All these Westerns for so many years is doing it. I think Asians definitely get their huge share of that. But I think it's like Banks was saying, I think it's a lot more even than we do, because there's so many things that we don't pay attention to. Because they do it in a sneaky way, like I said, and Doctor Strange, or like Mortal Kombat, with Raiden.
I gotta shoot Marvel some bail, because yes, they did the ancient one like that, but at the same time, I guess I don't know if this is the results from seeing Black Panther and
Scarface,
culturally what it did, but like you see somebody like you see what they did with the ancient one. You see now they got a movie dropping out, Shang-Chi, which is straight of Asian descent. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going on.
Because now they're kind of like directly looking at different cultures and giving them their own Marvel movie. That's what it kind of seems like in each direction. Go ahead.
I was wondering how many inaccuracies was going to be in Shang-Chi, like as far as from an ethnic standpoint, like how bad was it going to be? Because that's one thing with films. I never feel like they do their due diligence in getting it like absolutely right, unless you literally just directly outsourcing and be like, hey, y'all come tell us how y'all get down like that. I really feel it. So with that, I was kind of wondering, because a lot of people, Mulan, it wasn't the animated movie was shot like all the characters were drawn to look, but their traditions. Their traditions, their culture was all wrong. That's why the live action movie is so different from it's so different from the animated movie. Like they like, if you go to Asia, like they don't fuck with Mulan, like the animated series. So it's
on the flip side, you got a movie like where it can be done correctly, right? Like you got a movie like Kung Fu Panda, which is done like in America, but like people in Asia they rock with the movie so hard they actually looked at themselves and said, why don't we have a movie that's this culturally accurate, and how was it done by white people? Like we need to do better, that kind of thing. You got Jack Black,
and I think that's what's going to be about what's changing now that they're starting to get, because our voices are starting to be heard, right? Asian voices, Black voices, Hispanic voices are starting to be heard. Like, nah, you need to chill out and make the movies accurate. And I think that's what we're seeing now. Because I be seeing a list, like one of my favorite films growing up was Starship Troopers, right? And I didn't know that it was, a book at some point, and that the main character was of, Filipino descent, right? Like, so I think they do things like that. Like they taking something that's not known, make it into a movie and casting who they feel they need to cast to get that movie, the light that it needs to get. But I think now with all the different streaming services and different areas that they can put films, they can broaden out and do that. Marvel is so big now that there's really no point for them to do that at this point, right? Because you're going to put $200 million into it. We're going to go see it. You might as well make it accurate, or you're going to have millions of people upset. You know what I'm saying? Like, on these things. You already see how people are acting with a black Superman. You already see how people are acting. And they have a black Superman in the comic books. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what I'm saying. It's like if it's in the comic books, then I don't see what the problem is. But if it's something like, Exodus, Gods and Kings, where clearly, like, it doesn't make any sense for a white person to be in that type of climate in Africa.
Moses
with white skin, like, you would literally get sunburnt, like, OD. So it
instantly.
And none of them had sunblock.
You
right?
have
in the movie,
to,
they
you
ain't
have
put
to
no
have
sunblock on.
you have to have black skin to be able to survive in that climate for a long period of time. So it doesn't make any fucking sense. But that's a whole nother discussion.
But that's actually one thing that I kind of enjoyed with like the new Mortal Kombat film, where they actually they took that step forward, right? Like they made that a thing. Like they made sure that their characters was of this descent. They didn't try
culturally accurate.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed those aspects of film because I'm always preaching that film is a direct representation of society. And then on top of that, it's also teaching us something. Like it's constantly teaching us something, whether it's good habits, bad habits, good information, real information, whatever the case may be. It's teaching us that because people will pull from that. So like if I make a movie about, I don't know, Earth being a rectangle, then there's, we might see people saying like, yo, that makes sense. Earth might really be a rectangle. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's important. And that's another reason why it's important that we stop with the whitewashing of things and portray these characters the way they're supposed to be portrayed, the way they are being portrayed, especially like real life things. Like, like you were saying there in Africa, and all the gods in Africa are white. It just doesn't make sense, right? So, and I think us as people need to stop watching it too. Like, no, I don't want to see that. Like, I'm tired of seeing this. So.
Terrell, were you talking about Exodus, the movie about Moses and Ramses, or were you talking about
Gods and Kings?
Gods of Egypt?
My bad. Yeah, Gods of Egypt.
Because they're both whitewashed. It's odd. They're both whitewashed. So it gets into a point. But the thing like that, like interested that you're saying, like it's in the comics. It's still a fictional character. I don't know if y'all remember when John Boyega and George Lucas got all the kickback from John Boyega being cast in Star Wars. It's like this man playing a stormtrooper. He's playing a excommunicated stormtrooper. He's not even the main character. And there was like an uproar that he's black. And it's like,
not even real. They're fake.
Facts. This is and I wore this shirt so I would be like reminded, but Terrell reminded me anyway. So I'm like, you see how the uproar over one fictional, not even the main character. Like I can't even remember what was his character's name in the movie. It was. This is gonna sound crazy, but it's like some Finn.
Yeah, Finn.
Finn. So like it's like they got offended about this fictional character that doesn't exist. There was a backlash on Flash, the CW series in the Arrowverse, when they made Wally West black. Like it's just like you're upset about fictional characters, but these real African descendant king is being played by Christian Bale.
But y'all like that, right?
They all right with that. That's cool.
It made no sense. So I do want to touch on, because you said it earlier, Bench, like I do want to touch on that. Like, how do actors view it, right? Like, do they know? I mean, they gotta know that, you obviously don't look like a god from Egypt. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep picking on that crap, but like, how do you do that? Because some of the greatest actors have done this in some sort of way. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Me personally, I feel like living in our day, like living in the day and time we live, and then some of it's just obvious. Like Africa, like after Africa, it's like you're a descendant of who? So I feel like it gets to a certain point to where living in the day and time that we live in, the internet is that fast. So even if you don't know, it's not hard to know. When you go into studying for your role, when you go into getting ready, preparing yourself for this role, I'm not convinced it's not crossing your mind one time. Like I said, Johnny Depp playing Tonto. Like, I'm not of Native American descent. I'm not. And then even to go so far as you're playing according to a lot of people don't believe in the Bible, but these are people who actually walked the earth. Moses, Ramses, Egyptian. They were born here. This is homegrown. Why was Christian Bale why was he even on the short list? Fuck the top of the list. Why was he even on the short list? Like, how did he get to where we're like, all right, we'll use Christian Bale and have him play Moses?
It's like they got too comfortable and was like, yeah, fuck them. Let's just change it to Christian Bale, a white dude.
So I just seen something that kind of bothered me. So the movie The World Trade Center in 2006, they had an actor, William Macklether, however you say his name, and he played a black Marine sergeant in the film. I mean, black like Banks black, and he played Sergeant Jason Thomas. Now, this kind of bothers me because if it's based on true events, right? Like true events. This sergeant did something good enough that they wanted to add him to the film. You know what I'm saying? And he's a hero, right? And I feel like you kind of not portraying it the right way, if that makes sense to me.
So the dude is white that played him.
Yeah, the dude is white that played him. It's a white man that played a black man in the film. Now, more than likely, the role probably wasn't as big, like it wasn't the leading role. But just the portraying of that just seems like somebody should have put a stop to like, nah, we don't need to do that, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That and you're absolutely right. There's no like I said, like I've been saying the whole show, there's no excuse for it at this point. And even you when did that come out?
2006.
2006. Yeah, there was still definitely enough good black actors that you could have went and found someone to play this American hero. I mean, it sounds pretty heroic. Anything he would have been doing in a movie, for him to be playing a hero in a movie about the World Trade Center, you're an American hero at this point. So why can't we do something as simple as accurately depicting your likeness in a film? Yeah.
They even have Angelina Jolie play the Afro-Cuban.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's crazy. And it's just like so many films that have done that from in our time, like to today, right? Like the time to like where we've been actively watching films all the way to now. You know what I'm saying? Like to 2021, they're still doing this.
We know how whitewashing, not only does it eliminate like roles for non-white actors, but would you say that it creates a negative consequence for the viewers of these kinds of films? So like, for example, a black kid or just black people in general watching a whitewash film over and over again for years, do you think it has a negative impact?
Yes. And because of like I said this on a couple of shows, I said it on a couple of episodes. When I was little, there was just certain shit that I didn't see us being represented as on screen. So even when I would daydream, like even when I would think about it, I'm like, black people don't do that shit. That's where that shit comes from. It's because you don't see it being presented as a possibility for you. Like before the late 2000s, like nigga, you didn't think about black people skateboarding. TK, that one dude off of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that's the only black skateboarder you knew. Now, like that shit's like it's a regular everyday thing for black people. Like, why can't black people? So I feel like yes, because with children growing up, when they don't see themselves being represented, like when you don't see that in every aspect of things you may want to do, it can shy you away from those things if you don't have a strong-minded parents to like teach you that you can do anything. But like you can be sitting up here and you be like, shit, people like me don't do that shit. And there you go. You might have just missed out on being the next best hockey player alive. First black greatest hockey player of all time, because you looking at hockey like we don't do that shit. That's not something we do. So I definitely feel like that shit can have a negative impact.
I co-sign everything you just said. Can't argue with that. I mean, the main thing is like when people look at it as something like they've seen their whole lives, or whether it's right or wrong, if they get used to it, if somebody tries to throw some like a monkey wrench at them and say like, no, actually it's actually historically inaccurate, it's actually supposed to look like this, you're not going to be as receptive to it as, you know, if you saw that from the beginning, from the start. So it's going to have negative impacts all around, and then you're gonna voice your opinions on to like whoever you're around, or start a Facebook group and talk like, yo, this is some bullshit or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just the cycle continues. That's just how it goes. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's even deeper than that, because I think you have kids that are into the comic books or the novels and different things like that, and they're reading the books and they're reading the novels, and then they're watching them, and then they're excited to see the movie of their favorite comic book or their favorite book or whatever the case may be, and then they just see, you know, a bunch of white people playing gods and stuff like that. So I think it impacts them on that. And I think even if you do have strong-minded parents, it impacts you too, because I know a lot of the things that I wanted to do as a child, I felt maybe I couldn't have done, so I looked into something else automatically and was telling my parents, like, yeah, I understand I could do whatever I want to do, but I want to play football. You know what I'm saying? So I think because of that, me watching and seeing different things, I think it played a toll in that, even though I had parents that was telling me that I could do whatever I want to do. And then they get behind, not thinking that maybe that might be the thing. So then they jump behind me and doing the football thing. And you know, 10 years, 15 years later, I'm doing film. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Something that I originally wanted to do when I was a kid or whatever the case may be. So I think it goes way, way deep, and I'm also a believer that you learn more from films and TV than going to school, and you know, based on, you know, like
Definitely
what I actually do on the outside, right? Because I'm going to take the actions that I see on the screen, you know, and then go put that forward, right? Then, so I definitely think it does.
Yeah, just to add on, because all you guys pretty much covered everything. I think it's ridiculous either way. Like, if you're gonna make a film about Mansa Musa, who you know was living in the 1300s in Western Africa, don't cast no white dude. And if you're gonna make a
black man on the planet.
Oh yeah, by the way, the richest recorded man ever, but that just put out there. Also, if you're gonna make a film about George Washington, don't cast no random black dude with a perm.
Michael B. Jordan.
Right.
Even though I would go see Michael B. Jordan play George Washington.
That obvious.
Sure you would.
Yo, I view that.
This nigga will cast everybody at Michael B.
And
Jordan.
then not only am I gonna go see it, I'm going to go get the dollar bill tattooed on me with Michael B. Jordan.
Yo, no, but after that, you got to do a review about it too.
Oh, we gonna.
I'm not on that episode.
Oh, you definitely on that episode.
Yo, you gonna be on that episode, bro, and we're gonna do it. That shit gonna be lit.
This is gonna be another John Henry type of roast.
All right. Oh, come on, yo.
Yeah. No matter what, somebody brings up John Henry or safety.
Why?
No matter what. It
Why?
has nothing to do with what
we was doing mad good, and you brought that bullshit up.
You just had to do it, bro.
Fuck you bring this up.
All right, that's our show.
I wish they would have
Appreciate
watched that film.
Appreciate y'all tuning in. You know what I'm saying? We had a dope discussion. Let us know what your thoughts is about whitewash films, whitewash Hollywood in general. Leave it in the comments. Make sure you to subscribe to the YouTube. We're on YouTube, Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Check us out on Instagram, Real Talk Official Podcast. Appreciate, the usual suspects joining us. We always have dope convos, and that's the show.
Certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Everybody.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is Certified